All right, we have to talk about something, and it's really important, in my opinion, across the Bionicle community. But I don't really know how to tackle the subject other than to say price gouging is bad. Scalping is bad. Here's the thing. For a long time, I think anybody who has been into Bionicle these last few years has seen how high prices have rose, not just on sets, but on individual pieces as well. And part of the reason for this is bad actors, in all honesty. There are a lot of people out there who have bought items that are not terribly rare, but still decided that this is worth money now, so we're going to charge this amount for it. In the last video, I talked about the Toa Nuva masks, and in so doing, I brought up the Miru Nuva. This is not a rare mask, by the way. This is not an expensive mask. I'm not holding it up to try to pretend that it is something. It is not. You can get one of these for about $5, and $5 for a mask is, it's $5 for a piece of plastic. Make of that what you will. But it's not $100. Arguably the best, in my opinion, Nuva mask. Objectively the best. No. But I wanted to bring this up because I had several people actually comment on that video talking about how they didn't know that this one was cheap. They didn't bother looking because why would you? It's very discouraging when all of the masks that you maybe loved from your childhood are suddenly worth $20, $30, $40, $100 or more. And here's the thing, to my knowledge, the research I've done, this is not any rarer than any of the other silver masks or any more common. As far as I've heard, and this story has not been confirmed, someone apparently at some point in the early 2000s took a bag of these from a Lego warehouse and gave them out, meaning that there were some of these out floating around earlier than others to some degree. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it was part of a promotion. I don't know what it was. I don't know why this mask specifically is the one that's worth $5 and has not gone up in price in about 10 years. However, all of the other ones, just in the last 4 years, have doubled or even tripled in price. It makes no sense to me, other than the fact that there are, yes, scalpers. There are people who will go out of their way to buy something cheap only to flip it immediately. Now, I don't have an issue with that in and of itself. I think you have a right to spot a good deal and sell it for what it's worth, or what you think it's worth, or what someone is willing to buy it for. However, there are bad actors in this as well. People who go out of their way to set up a second account here on Bricklink or on eBay to give a purchase history to something that isn't any more valuable than what they bought it for. So what ends up happening is they list an item like this, assuming that it's a How Nuva instead. This is just an example, of course. I'm not accusing anybody of price gouging the How Nuva or anything like that, but you get the point I'm trying to make, right? And taking something like this, selling it to themselves through a second account. And now that markup is on record. Suddenly it went from being $8 to $20. Oh, suddenly it went from $20 to $40, $40 to $100. And that adds up. Not only because it's marked as a recent sale, making it seem as though, oh, something's going on here, which can sort of perpetuate in the market, but also at the same time, the sale never happened. Nothing physically changed, but now this person can now go and say, oh, everyone else is selling it for $100 now, I guess I can't. It's ethically and morally wrong, and I think we all get this. Here's the thing. I don't have an issue to a degree when it's something rare. A prototype, for example. As someone who has owned prototypes, as someone who has sold prototypes for markups as well, that's not the issue that I have. The issue I have is when A, you gatekeep the supply, or B, you make false sales to get on record that there's demand for this item and that it is now worth more than what you bought it for, when that may not be the case. I, to a degree, understand why a Karzani set might sell for $100 today, but not $400. To a degree, I understand why the Pearl Gold Krakan would sell for more, being that it was a late changeover to that color. Same with the Pearl Gold Vizirac shell as well. But the Pearl Gold Ignika, to me, that one's a little bit more of an enigma. That set was produced in, well, a set that was mass-produced across the world. As far as I'm aware, unless I'm wrong about something, I don't believe it was an exclusive anywhere. Maybe it was a Toys R Us exclusive. I honestly don't know. But suffice to say, I can understand why that mask would be expensive, being locked behind and exclusive to a very expensive set, a set that kind of undersold, let's be honest, and is not the most attractive set in the world. but it's also sort of the MacGuffin, if you will, of 2006 through 2009 or 10. And so, yeah, of course, people are going to want it in that color. It's the special color from Bionicle, essentially. But $400, $800 or more dollars? No, absolutely not. And that's the problem. We get to this point where people start making sales behind the scenes that we don't have any information on, and we just take those numbers and account them for ourselves. Now we think, oh, well, if I'm going to sell something, I want to sell it at market rate. If I believe that that's too high, sure, I might go lower, but am I going lower? If an item worth $100 is being sold for $900 and I market for $5, yeah, it's on sale, sure, but it's still $500 for a $100 item. Again, that's not saying that that's what the Ignika is worth. I am not the arbiter of value here. But it is a problem. And an example of this is the reddish gold prototype Evoke. A handful of these were discovered in all places in a toothbrush collector's, collection, sealed with the toothbrush. Because as far as we know, apparently LEGO had intended to actually give us the toothbrush, not only with the Nuva masks, or maybe the Nuva masks were a replacement for what was going to be the Evoke, the Mask of Light. When LEGO made these for Crest or whatever other brand it was for, honestly, I don't remember, they had done so with the first version, the preliminary version of the Evoke. It's slightly different. It's minimal at best, and I don't have a prototype here to show you, but the main difference, of course, is the color. Reddish gold, not flat dark gold. You might be familiar with this color from Knight's Kingdom. You've seen it elsewhere. I believe the Black Borak, the Nuvok Va, or Nuvok Cal set had a reddish gold Krana as well. Don't quote me on that, but at the end of the day, it's a beautiful color. What happened, though, was that this seller was essentially gatekept from the public. They, as far as I know, had posted some of these items either on eBay or somewhere else for sale. Someone caught wind of it, got a hold of them in the background, basically told them to unlist it. Again, just going from my research, some of these details could be wrong, but suffice to say, what ended up essentially happening was that this person or group of people bought them. And I heard numbers of around $200. I don't know if that was per, or if that was for a whole lot, or if that was for just a specific set amount. I don't know. But suffice to say, bought more than one, as far as I'm aware, for that $200 price point, only to immediately flip them on eBay for several thousands of dollars. Well, eventually, obviously, the toothbrush seller would get wind of this, of course, and they would go to mark theirs up as well because people were buying them. And then flipping them and reselling them for about $5,000. And that's where I started having problems. Obviously, I had problems earlier, but you see what's going on here, right? Someone who's in control of essentially the entire supply of an item. It'd be like if I or any of you owned every single Glatorian Matanui Legend set. A set that on his own might retail for $30-ish, give or take. It's a little more expensive than the others, but it kind of makes sense given that he is still wearing the Ignika. He's sort of the poster child for that wave, and it's Matanui, right? But if you owned all of them, and you're like, oh, LEGO didn't ever release this, but they intended to. If history had changed that bit. But what if the same number of them were still made? You just had all of them. You get to derive the price. You have the supply, And so people are going to buy it because it's Toa Matanui. And if you don't tell them how many are out there, people are going to think, oh, well, there's only a handful. There's only one. You see the problem, right? The lack of transparency here is part of the inherent problem. The fact that people are willing to buy and sell items to themselves to establish a record is the problem. Again, I've mentioned this. I don't mind when people mark things up because I do believe that sometimes you get lucky. You find something. I, in the past, found a copper Komau for $1 on an eBay lot 15 years ago or so. By the time I sold it, it was a $75+-ish mask. I don't know if I sold it for that much, but it was expensive. So yeah, I got lucky in that sense, right? I did hold on to it for a long time. It was mint condition, so there were factors that went into it as well. But you can see where I start having issues with this, right? That mask was never gatekept. I mean, to a degree, yes, it was given out in a different method than other masks. You couldn't just go and buy it, but you get the point. But in this case here, with these Evokies, with other items as well, people who were given items by LEGO only to sell them at a markup as well, it starts to become a problem. And I've been a victim of this as well. I've bought things from people early so I could do reviews for something like the channel, which I paid way more money than they're worth. And that was a calculated risk, of course. I knew that I was paying more than it was going to cost, but at the same time, it was worth getting into because I could do a review on it first, you know? And that can bring in views. That's always fine, sure. Whatever you're willing to pay for something is not to say that it's not worth what you think it's worth. Because if you're happy buying the thing that you want for the price it's being sold for, then everybody's happy. No, my problem is the practice. It's the fact that people are willing to do this, willing to price gouge to such a degree. Some of these people I have dealt with in the past and don't deal with now because they don't care to. Because let's be honest, it's not okay to take advantage of a situation where you paint yourself as this collector of rare things to buy the rare things cheap and sell them at an extreme markup. You essentially collected the clout around owning the piece, but you never have the intention of actually owning it, at least not forever. Because you're not a collector. You're a collector by brand. It's how people see you. But you don't care about the item. You care about buying it for less and selling it for more, and that's your career. That's your hobby. This is something that can be seen everywhere, so it's not unique to Bionicle, and the pandemic is a unique situation because so many people were trapped inside. Part of those people were going to get into Bionicle, this thing they may have loved as a child, forgot about until they did their spring cleaning, or that spring cleaning was going to lead to them selling those items because, hey, I got a lot of stuff to get rid of, you know? And it creates this perfect buyer's market. A lot of people who now have a vested interest in this thing that they used to love as a child, but they don't own any of these sets anymore, maybe save for one that was buried in their closet somewhere, while other people are cleaning that very closet and selling their collection. It's a perfect time to buy, and it was so for me. I can't tell you how many lots that I bought back in 2019 and 2020, 2021 for an insane markdown. It's how I was able to get most of my collection back because, as I've mentioned in the past, I've had my collection stolen twice. It's part of life. But now, today, a lot of these lots that go up for sale are often more expensive, partially because, again, there are people that go out there and buy lots like I did, and inevitably you're going to get duplicates of things, and so you sell them. Fair enough. But also, as different websites, different modes of sales, different marketplaces like eBay or Mercari or Facebook or elsewhere are sort of being saturated with all of these buyers who want to sell things in bulk rather than sell them individually because A, you don't have to build them, and B, you can charge them way more than they're worth. Well, it's easier. But at the same time, the devil's in the details. I think that Bionicle has value. If it didn't, I wouldn't be here. And it's worth exactly to you what it means to you. It's worth to you the memories that it made. I can't tell you all of the different memories that I've had growing up as a child because of Bionicle. In some ways, sure, it stunted my growth and my learning how to be a person because we're all just adults pretending, but at the same time, it taught me so much about myself that I wouldn't have otherwise known. I didn't know how to identify with or articulate. But anyway, I could go on about this, but the whole point of this is to say that don't be fooled by the allure of an item that you want just because you want to. Don't let that cloud your vision as to what it's worth to you. But also at the same time, don't think that just because you have something that is rare in and of itself, it's automatically expensive. Or rather, that because the market says it is, that it is. Because there are bad actors out there. Honestly, my thought is buy something for the amount you're willing to pay for it. Sell something for the amount you're happiest with. Sometimes that does mean taking calculated risks. Sometimes that means strategizing. It's not a perfectly clear... I don't even know what to say anymore. I think you guys get the point. So that's going to be it for this one. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you are subscribed. It really does help out the channel. And of course, as always, you can join the conversation in the comments or in the description if you want to check out the Discord, Instagram, or Patreon if you want to support the channel and get some perks. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.